Hello, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Now, in today's session, we are going to be looking more at how our thoughts influence our feelings. If you would like a reminder of what we talked about in our previous sessions, you can watch them here. They should pop up on the screen. So to begin with, let's review how your week has been. You've been keeping a diary for me that looks at your feelings every day. You rate your feelings on a scale of 0 to 10. And you've also been collecting some of your thoughts, particularly on the days when you're feeling not so great. Is that it there? Can I take a look? Okay, thank you. Okay, do you mind if I just jot a few things down? Okay, now I can see here. I can see that towards the middle of the week you maybe felt in a better place, but at the beginning and the end you were struggling a little more. And I think from looking at your thoughts, I can see why that might be. I think today's session might be quite helpful in helping you to understand that. So we're going to be looking at a particular thinking pattern that I like to call too many rules. And you can tell if you're engaging in this thinking pattern because you'll notice in your internal dialogue lots of words like should, shouldn't, must, ought to, have to. So I should do this and I shouldn't do that. I have to do this. I oughtn't do that. Okay, now these statements kind of create like a pseudo code for us, a way of living, I suppose intended to guide us. When they're directed to ourselves, they can leave us feeling quite guilty. When we direct them to other people, so he shouldn't behave like that, he shouldn't have done this, it can make us feel quite angry. Sometimes we use these statements or rules to try and motivate ourselves. And it's interesting. So say a rule is I shouldn't eat that donut, or I should definitely go to the gym. They kind of make us feel a little controlled, a little rebellious, and we often end up doing the opposite and feeling guilty. Now we all do this. We all have too many rules for ourselves. So why is that? Now often when we all do something, we can look to evolution, to nature, to find out why that is. And in this case, this kind of way of thinking seems to have been developed for our ancestors, whose primary threat was a physical one. So being able to organise their minds, but probably more importantly their environments, in quite a structured, rigid way, made it easier to defend them. It was a way of protecting themselves. Now, of course, for human beings now, our biggest threat, or our primary threat, is kind of more of a psychological one, emotional one. So this way of thinking is less helpful. And it starts really early, actually. It probably begins on day one of our lives. this living by particular rules. When we start out in life, we live according to the rules that our parents set for us. And when we grow up and leave home, we tend to take those rules with us, whether they're helpful or not, because we become so used to them. And human beings like things that are familiar, that they're used to. Now, this is all well and good if these rules are helping us, if they're serving us, but if we suspect that they're not, it's time to take a look at them. So let's look at some of your rules. I noticed in particular there's a rule here that was coming up for you. I must make a good first impression. I think that's quite a common rule that people have for themselves, and on the surface, on the face of things, doesn't seem to be a particularly harmful rule, but let's have a closer look. So once you've identified the rule, so you've got a must statement there, observe that rule, watch how it makes you feel, what it makes you do. So how does it make you feel, that rule, I must make a good first impression? Okay, so makes you feel quite stressed. And what's the result of that rule? I think that makes sense. It makes you make more mistakes because it kind of puts you on edge. It sets an expectation which is often hard to meet. Okay, so then the next step is to try and understand the origins of this rule, where it comes from. That way, if you discover that it's not a particularly helpful rule, you can kind of tether it to its origins and leave it there. Stop it from getting involved in what's happening right now. So what do you think? Where do you think that rule, I must make a good first impression, comes from? Yes, I think it's often these rules come from a significant person in our past, often our parents. So that's something that you often heard your father say. Okay, good. So if we decide that this isn't such a great rule for you, we can maybe decide to give that back to him. Okay, so now the next step is to look at the pros of this rule and also the cons. Let's start with the pros. So what are the advantages of this rule? I must make a good first impression. Okay, so it gives you a code, helps you to feel in control, as if you have a plan, and it's familiar. I mean, that is often the main reason that we hold on to these things, because they are familiar. Kind of don't stop and question them, because they've been with us for so long. Okay, what about the disadvantages? Okay, so it puts you under pressure, sets you up, and it sucks the enjoyment out of things. Okay, so it looks like maybe this rule isn't particularly helpful, so let's see if we can think of some alternatives. Okay, so what do you think? Okay, so there's a lot of pressure to keep putting yourself under. No wonder you feel stressed. Okay, so I think that's right. Our first impressions are heavily influenced by our past experiences. So often when we meet someone, we're a very small part of what's influencing their impression of us. When we meet someone, all these kind of doors from the past are opened, and ghosts from the past are sort of influencing how they perceive us. And it does take some time for us to kind of get in front of those ghosts, and for people to actually see us for who we actually are, not just who we might remind them of. Okay, good. Anything else? Yes, I think that's a good point. I think relationships are built over time. People are complex and connections can't be rushed. What else? Okay, so play the longer game. Yes, good. Don't try to show everything that needs to be shown straight away. It should be more of a journey of discovery. Okay. Let's see. Think of anything else. Okay. So, good. Most of the time, we have more than one opportunity to make a good first impression. And we just have to trust ourselves and allow things to evolve organically. Good. Anything else? I think that's right. I think that we have very little control over what other people think of us, and we kind of have to make our peace with that. Okay, so you see the process here. First of all, we need to identify the rule. Maybe jot it down in the way that we've done today. Observe it over the course of a few days. Notice how it's making you feel, what it's making you do. And then sit down and make 2 lists. The pros of the rule, what it adds, and the cons, what it takes away. And then if you decide that the rule isn't particularly helpful, of course, first of all you need to identify its origins. I missed that one. Once you've done that, then see if you can think of some alternative ways of thinking in that particular situation, and then maybe you tether that rule to its origins, to that place in the past where it belongs, or that person in the past where it belongs. So maybe over the course of this week you can give that a go and see if it helps your mood at all. Okay. Now, do you have any questions or any worries about anything that we've spoken about today? Okay, good. Well, it was nice spending time with you today, and hopefully I will see you for another therapy session, same time, next week.